It's kind of strange how Rockland County still has step-by-step offices. Unlike the eastern part of Long Island, Suffolk County, which got rid of theirs before 1970, there are still a few, and the dialing instructions in these places that have step have to be different. Rockland County has message unit calling within itself and to and from southern Westchester County. Congers is right in the middle of the part of Rockland County along the Hudson River, so it's got to have local calling to a lot of Crossbar 5s that have message unit calling. What I think they're probably doing is making the customers dial 1 for anything beyond the single message unit area. And probably if you pay extra for flat rate service, single message unit calls are free. Let's call Congers 268. Now that sounds so close to the original CDO busy signal that I'm not sure they've changed it. Let me pull up a real CDO busy signal that sounds close. Okay, now here's Congers. Yeah, okay, it's been changed. I just needed to make sure because it didn't sound that far off, but the main tone, that from Congers, has stronger even harmonics than the original tone, which sounds to me more like a square wave. But in any case, if you're sighted and you have a real-time frequency analysis function on any kind of a sound editor, take a look at these two tones alternating. And if you have the right kind, as I do here with Adobe Audition, you can actually see the even harmonics jumping up in level every time it switches to the tone from Congers. Anyway, that's the difference harmonically, and Lorraine products with their good imitation, well, they're not going to fool us, are they? See, these retrofits from the Lorraine company that were, well, they began to come in 1975. They're so odd because you would think that if they're going to retrofit the ring machines and really change the quality of the tone, that they would replace it with modern tones. But no, they did imitations of the original tones in many cases. However, when you had a ringtone like this, those, they changed completely. You're not going to believe the ring that Congers has. I think it used to ring like, now get a load of this. 600 hertz is the center frequency there. This sounds like something out of Carolina telephone territory.
We're sorry.
Oh, it's not your fault. This is the Bell system. And besides, y'all never had a 600 hertz ring. You just had an almost 1000 hertz ring in Wilson and Windsor. Jesus. But anyway, this is the Bell system that's making their rings strange, starting in, well, late 1975, but especially the early 80s. Another thing from the early 80s is that New York Telephone began using Jane Barbie recordings or other voices from Audichron.
I'm sorry.
Here's the vacant level in Congers.
Wait, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry.
Another call to a ringing number in Congers showed a slightly different face of that same rather odd ringing machine. This one is not so loud, and the center frequency is not quite so pronounced. Non-working numbers, within working groups of numbers, are handled by the same centralized intercept as the rest of the sector. Here's a changed number. The strange new Congers ring is stripped, and then we hear the Nyack concentrator ring, once again with pitch variation at 60 slowdowns per minute.
What number are you calling?
268-3309.
Thank you. 268-3309 disconnected. Calls being taken by 359-5873.
359-5873.
Right.
If you listen carefully here, you can hear some 2600 dial pulsing in the background. The strange Lorraine retrofit kits that have changed the rings in the bell system do have a usual pattern, although there are exceptions. Generally speaking, CDO ring becomes this, while new CDO ring, this, becomes this. Tuxedo 351, which we dialed into while we were in Slotsburg back in 1977, had that kind of ring, and that probably means that it used to have new CDO ring and got retrofit early. Retrofitted? Anyway, let's call Tuxedo now. Here's a machine intercept number.
We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again.
What number are you calling?
351-9972.
Thank you. 351-9972 is not a working number.
They really are in a hurry. This particular connection with its 4 trunks can actually be identified as to what type each trunk is. The first one, of course, is the N1 carrier from Mamaroneck to Nyack. The trunk from Nyack to Tuxedo is N3 family carrier. That's what's making most of the noise here, because those trunks are very noisy when they're on hook. When a subscriber answers, those trunks get a lot quieter, but Intercept doesn't go off hook because it needs to be free, so we're talking to the operator through a very noisy trunk. The next trunk in the connection is second generation T-carrier from Tuxedo back to the Nyack Intercept concentrator. And the reason you can tell that is that in certain parts of this recording you can hear those little whistles. You probably have to use headphones. And finally, there's that older T1 trunk from Nyack down to Yonkers that goes into kind of an ugly oscillation when the operator goes off the line. And it was probably that trunk that did this. When the Lorraine retrofits hit the new CDO ring, this became this. But the new CDO busy signal, a very stable tone because the tone of it is made from the AC power line, this became this. Which kind of doesn't make sense because that is actually an imitation of old CDO busy signal, this. And when you consider that the original tone had no moving parts and was made directly from the AC power, I don't know why they bothered changing it. In fact, the first place where I ever heard a Lorraine retrofit on a new CDO type office was Morrisville, Vermont, where in 1975 the ring was this, but the busy signal was still. That's right, there they left the original. Tuxedo, New York, on the other hand, did retrofit their busy signal, and I assume their dial tone. The vacant level recording in Tuxedo is not especially pleasant to listen to, but it is kind of amusing. See if you can figure out what's going on here, because it is kind of funny.
I knew there was something funny about that recording. That's a 7A of a 7A. They took a 7A machine and recorded onto it the sound of another 7A machine repeating a few times.
Yes, and the machine they chose to copy starts in the middle of the announcement like this. And it does that 3 times on this announcement, and then this announcement terminates early. This is a recording? Hello? Yeah, good work, guys. But you know, it's a good thing we didn't call the vacant level in the early 70s in Tuxedo because, well, it probably sounded like this. Okay, I'm joking, but I'm surprised at how plausible that sounded. Moving on, there's another small step in Greenwood Lake, New York, not to be confused with Upper Greenwood Lake, New Jersey, though they are fairly close to each other. Here's the vacant level there, and see if this sounds familiar.
Dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. What cannot be completed is dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. What cannot be completed is dialed.
Okay, it's that Jane Barbie recording that starts in the middle of the announcement, clipped off the first few words.
What cannot be completed is dialed.
Have we heard that somewhere before?
What cannot be completed is dialed.
Yeah, in Tuxedo. So from Tuxedo, they called the vacant level in Greenwood Lake, apparently not caring that it...
What cannot be completed is dialed.
Right, does that, and then recorded it on the drum a few times, not bothering to make sure the announcement completed the third time.
I'll call your operator to help you.
And take your headphones off, Frank.
What?
Never mind.
Greenwood Lake, whose code is 477, is reached over N2 or N3 carrier trunks, that's 2600 operated, from the Nyack tandem. On this next call where Intercept fails, you can tell what kind of trunk it is. Here we have N1 carrier and N3 family carrier noise combined. And we heard a little brief ring trip there. That is the Greenwood Lake ring, which is the same type as the Congers ring. Next, a ringing number in Greenwood Lake, as recorded by my tape recorder that is too sensitive for the loudness of this ring. As you can see, this is the same as Congers, it's just that on the Congers call, I corrected for the automatic volume control and the high sensitivity. The Greenwood Lake busy signal has a tinnier quality than Congers did. on that call there was an odd variation in one of the N1 carrier howl frequencies. It was sounding almost like some sort of oscillation. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why that happened. I don't think I want to stop and analyze it right now. Let's go on. So we still have Slotsburg, which I'm going to try calling now that it's the next day. And here's the Slotsburg busy signal as it is now. You hear all those clicks? That's other callers coming in and hanging up. Well, that is actually heartwarming to see. The Lorraine retrofit has been accomplished, but that busy signal is still talkable in 1981. It's the same pitch, but again, there's a lot more even harmonics. Used to be this. That's recorded locally, of course. Now here it is over carrier with the new tone. Now the Slotsburg ring has turned out to be an abomination within the realm of abominations, because this is supposed to be the ringing machine that... Right, 600 hertz. But Slotsburg somehow ended up with the wrong fake ring. In the weird world of Lorraine Products retrofits, the Crossbar 5 type ring, this, usually becomes this. Which, if you're not paying attention, sounds pretty good, but then as you listen closely, it really sort of, you can see it's a cheap imitation. But anyway, Slotsburg somehow got switched to this retrofitted Crossbar 5 type ring, even though it originally rang like this. Here's a machine intercept call. The first ring you hear is the new ring, which you don't usually get on a small step, but somehow that happened here.
We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again.
What number are you calling?
753-9850.
I don't hear you.
753-9850.
Sir, 753-0890.
No, 753-9850.
One moment. 753-9850.
Right.
Not a working number.
Thank you.
Right.
The trunks from Nyack to Slotsburg are here and have been N3 carrier or N2 carrier, 2600 controlled. The next call is an unanswered number in Slotsburg, and you can hear just how strange this ring is and how it really doesn't fit really anywhere. Listen carefully to this next ring. What the heck? Strange. Okay, and now it's back to its normal weirdness. Sometimes the real thing comes close to sounding like that. Here's an example. That's a real Crossbar 5 ring, close to the pitch of the fake. Pretty good. And then it'll do something like this.
Oh,
There are some Lorraine retrofit rings that sound off in a different way.
Four, 9, 6, 7.
That was Rye, New York in the early 80s. It has retained a lot of the qualities of the original ring, so there's a continuum. It may be that only certain parts got swapped out in some offices. That may explain why this ring from Rye still sounds pretty real, even though it's not right.
4. Oh,
Well, this is as far as the Warwick and 914 series can go. We're in 1981. Things are starting to come to an end, but in retrospect, these analog modifications are just another facet of the whole thing. And there are more N1 carrier tapes that I haven't published yet at this point. I made a lot of recordings from Mamaroneck, this same place, during 1980, calling down to York Tandem.
Recording 21218.
That's one of the older New York City tandems, which along with Amsterdam Tandem number 1,
Recording 21219.
covered calls to Manhattan and the Bronx. The territory was split in a very almost random-seeming way between the two, and we do have N1 carrier here to York, with a few suspected ON trunks mixed into the group, the ones that sound like this. Probably I'm going to release those as raw tapes. There's also N1 from here to the entirety of the Long Island area code via Hempstead Tandem 1 and 2 on N1 carrier, and also there's N1 to Bushwick. But chronologically, what you just heard are the final extensive recordings of an N1 carrier group. After that, there wasn't any more until a brief stop in 1983 in the Georgia mountains. And from that point on, N1 carrier was something I only heard on the tapes. Well, that's it for this Warwick and 914 series. In this playlist, I'm going to put one more program that has to do with the numbering plan affecting the 914 area. This is mostly technical notes. Some people will find it interesting, others won't. But I did want to record that data somewhere, so that will eventually follow in this playlist. There are also other potential narrated series about the 914 area that I could do and might have time to do someday, especially narrating some of those raw tapes that you can find in the short long distance area. All of those tapes that say 914 as part of the description and are high quality are definitely worth listening to. It's beautiful stuff. Long distance and short long distance calls going out through White Plains 1 and Bronx Tandem as dialed from my West 73rd Street Crossbar 5 line. Notes on 914 numbering is next, and that's it for this.
Warwick.